Welcome back to the Verified Athletics Podcast. Hopefully the sound this time around will be a little bit better. Made some adjustments to the new studio. Want to remind all of the student athletes out there again to check out the College Selector if you haven't already. It's fully released on our website. You can find out more by going to verifiedathletics.com. Answer a simple survey, and within 24 hours, you'll get back results that recommend what colleges you should be reaching out to and learning more about in the recruiting process, the ones that are the best fit for you to get the best college experience. And it's 100% free. Our guest today is Dylan Mabin. Dylan is a corner for the Oakland Raiders. He's getting started. He's got camp coming up here in a couple of weeks. So excited to have him on, talk about all of the things about being in the NFL and trying to get there from what it was a relatively under-recruited athlete coming out of high school. So hope you guys enjoy it. Dylan is smart, he's interesting, and he's got a lot to say. So enjoy. All right, welcome back to the podcast. We got Dylan Mabin here. How's it going, Dylan?
It's going well. Glad to be here. Glad to have me.
Yeah, so this is cool. You're someone I've known for a while. I knew you when you were in high school. You were like a junior in high school when we first met, and now you are on the Oakland Raiders. So what's that like?
It's definitely been a long journey, and like you said, starting out so young. I'm glad you took a chance on me. Coming out of high school, undersized kid, but it's just glad to see how far I've come and how far I can go.
Yeah, so you graduated just this last year, and you got your degree, I assume.
Yes, yes, sir.
So, and then you got picked up by the Oakland Raiders, and what has that been like, or how did that happen? How did you choose Oakland versus other teams, or how does that work?
Well, basically, during the draft, leading up to the draft, I basically knew I wasn't going to get drafted. There was a small chance that I could go in like the seventh round, but I basically knew I wasn't. So my agent pretty much had certain teams that he's like, all right, these people are showing interest in you. Like, these are the teams you should consider. So I had about 4 or 5 like offers towards the end of the draft and once free agency started. So I basically knew which teams I wanted to go. And after looking at like different rosters and how many corners, that's my position, how many corners each team was going to take, we just came to the decision based off that.
So you just try to pick the spot that you thought you had the best shot to make the team.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and so that's pretty cool. And you were done when you said thought you kind of knew that you weren't going to get drafted. What do you think it was that was separating you from other people that were getting drafted, or at least in the minds of the NFL guys?
I know a lot of although Fordham is getting like more recognition nowadays, a lot of the teams were kind of like nervous about that just because I didn't have like that big FBS game that these other FCS products have. Like, we went against Army and Navy a bunch of years, so I didn't have that like big FBS game. So they kind of looked at our schedule and was like, like, we like you, we think you can be here, but we just don't know if we want to take a chance drafting you.
So you think it was like the level that you were coming from?
Yeah.
How do you think you match up to the other guys in terms of just like the raw numbers, like when you run the 40 or you do the pro agilities or those other things? You must have done pretty well if you were going to get considered alongside those guys.
Oh yeah, I had a pretty good pro day. Although it's not the combine, but pro day I ran a 4.41, which a lot of the teams like prior they thought I was gonna run like very slow, and that was another reason that they didn't want to take a chance on me. So once I did that, it kind of opened the doors a little bit at least. But I think I did pretty well.
That reminds me of 5 years ago, I think, when when I was recruiting you out of high school. I saw you at the Northwestern camp,
Mm.
and you ran a faster time there than I was expecting, and that kind of piqued my interest. So I guess that's come in handy for you more than once.
It has. I remember that. Yeah.
So all right, so you picked Oakland, and then when that, I guess, happened right after the draft. So that was in the end of April, and then we're in July now. So what's happened since then till now? What's it like? What's it been like to be that rookie in the NFL?
It's been pretty hectic. The draft's on like the 27th, and then the next week you're flying out for rookie mini camp. And so I did that, and that went right into OTAs, with the veterans and all the other rookies. So you do that, and then you got the little mini camp, and then they give you roughly about a month off, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, just at home training, grinding, learning my playbook even more than I already have. And then we go back at the end of July, and that's when it really starts. So it's been pretty exciting.
And I would think that there's some rookies that get invited to the rookie mini camp that don't make it to the next phase. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's mostly people that don't make it. They have a lot of tryout guys because they only sign about 10 to 10 to like 15 guys, like free agent wise for rookies. So, but they invite like 60.
I see.
So
So
it's a lot.
so mostly the guys there are. I think they're a lot of times seen as being bodies to just help you to run a practice to evaluate the guys that you really want. But I think on occasion, someone there's room for some people to surprise and make it to camp from there. Right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, like for example, I mean, they usually sign like 3 people out of rookie minicamp, but I know they told one dude like, we like you, we just don't got the numbers to sign you, and then like 2 weeks ago they cut somebody from the team and then brought that rookie in. So the rookie minicamp's an underrated way to get back on the team.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it's your shot, right? It's like
Yeah,
any day or any minute that you get to spend in front of an NFL coach or scout, gives you the opportunity to show what you have, and you either take advantage of it or you don't. But it's certainly better than not having that chance at all. And so you got to take what you can, and even if the odds are slim, you just go for it, right?
exactly. You got to go for it. Don't take it for granted.
And did you feel like going into that rookie mini camp that you were safe to make camp, like the actual camp, training camp, or does it not really work that way?
I mean, in reality, because I did sign a contract before I got there, so in reality, I was safe. But like before, I was just so nervous. I'm like, I can't like go there, and if I go there and I do very bad, they're gonna cut me before I even get to show what I got. So like, I was kind of nervous going in, especially just because I come from Fordham. I've never really went against this kind of talent before, but once I got there and got settled, it was pretty good, and made it so far.
So what's that talent level adjustment feel like? Do you think that this is a whole new world, or does it just feel like not that different?
um, it's not a whole new world. I went against some very good guys at Fordham. My teammates were. I feel like a lot of them could be on this level too, but it's just more just the size and speed. The speed of the game is crazy. Speed of the game is crazy. Learning these new formations and whatnot, different calls. Way more complex. It's just more so things like that. That's taking some adjusting to.
And when you say like the size and the speed, is it just like the receivers that you're up against? It's just you got to deal with a lot more.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're facing everything under the sun. You're facing the 5'9" receiver who runs a 4.28. You're facing the 6'5", 220-pound receiver. I'm covering tight ends that can run 4.5. It's everything under the sun. The league it's crazy these days.
And who would you rather be up against? Would you rather be up against like the big receiver that can jump and make plays and catch the ball, or the little guy that's quick and difficult to stay on?
Um, it definitely depends on the coverage, but if I'm just playing straight man to man, I'm going against the big receiver just because I feel like my body type is built better for that. I'm never gonna shy away from guarding the quick little shifty guys, but I feel like I match up well with the bigger receivers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a taller corner. Do you still feel like a taller corner in the NFL, or is it now you feel like you're just kind of average?
No, I mean there's tall guys, but I still feel like I'm on the taller, lengthier side of that spectrum.
Yeah, and you'll have to remind me. I know your brother had a brief stint in the NFL as well. How far did he make it?
He played for I think about 3 years. He never made it on the actual 53-man roster, but he was on several different practice squads, and he was there for about 3 years.
And what was his advice to you? I gotta imagine you turned to him and asked him for some advice when you were coming out. Did you use the same agent, or I don't know? Tell me all about that.
I mean, we didn't use the same agent, but he definitely gave me tons of advice. One of his major things was, for one, playbook is the most important thing. We know you can run for whatever. You can jump whatever. Like everybody can do that. The playbook is what's gonna separate you. And the second thing was special teams. That's the way you're gonna get on the field the fastest. That's how you're gonna make an impression. Like at the beginning. So take that very seriously and get as much reps as you can. Even if you're dog tired, just get those reps as much as you can.
Yeah, I've heard that with NFL teams. I mean, unless if you're playing offensive line or something, that the last couple spots on the roster at each position are not actually selected by the coach of that position. It's selected more so by the special teams coordinator. Is that how it feels?
Definitely. Our special teams coach, he always harps on, you know, you do have to, be able to play your main position well, but special teams is how some people are going to get on the roster, and that's just how it is. Can't take that for granted either. Just got to go hard.
Yeah, well, we've had Isa on the podcast before, and that's how he got his start. I mean, he was a special teams player. That's how he got in, but he made his way up to being a starting safety. So I think that you're right that can be the path. And for like a guy that's an undrafted free agent, it's gonna take them a little bit longer probably to warm up to you as being the potential starting corner for them. So it's a way to keep yourself alive and keep yourself in front of the coaches, get yourself better at the playbook, and get your skills up right while you're still being valuable to the team.
Definitely, because I got to, show out on the defensive end, prove my worth there, and I got to prove my worth as special teams. Some of the people that get drafted, they might have a little more leeway where they can just focus on one more than the other. But I gotta try and master both.
Yeah, and do you feel like that learning the playbook will be something that'll be easier for you than some of the other guys? Is that coming from a school like Fordham where academics are a little bit more important, and studying your study skills might be at a little higher game than some of the other guys. You think that you got a leg up there?
Um, I'm not gonna say I have a leg up just because I know everybody takes this game very seriously, and some of these dudes are coming from some serious programs where they've been running at X and Y. But I'm definitely confident in my ability to learn the playbook, and I'm studying it every day now, and it's only going to increase as it gets closer to camp. So hopefully that's going to give me my leg up.
Well, if I remember correctly, you got on the field as a freshman in your very first game against Army, at a level up, and we won that game. So I got to think that I wouldn't have I wouldn't have allowed myself to put you on the field if you weren't someone that can pick up things quickly and can be trusted, a little earlier on. I mean, that's tough to trust a freshman in that kind of situation. I think the game was on the line too, in a big way. So I don't know. Do you remember that experience at all? Does that stick out to you as a college memory?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite, probably football memories, just ever, just because I had no intention of playing that game. I talk about it with my parents all the time. They're like, we were not even nervous for the game because we didn't think you were going to play. And then next thing we know, you're up on the field. We're winning by 2 against Army, FBS, and then I'm out there, playing. So it's definitely one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I mean, you got to think playing corner against Army for the most part is pretty boring. It's mostly just like covered a receiver that's trying to block you because they're running the ball every play. But they did test you. I'm pretty sure they went deep, and I think you got a PBU. That's my memory? Is that how it went down?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember that. I was regard number 82. I don't know his name, but they threw a shot up. Luckily I jumped up and broke the pass up. Wish I would have picked it off now, but hey, I'm happy with a breakup too.
Well, I think when you're in that situation, you probably take a little bit less of a chance and just try to try to end the play as quickly as possible. Most people when they're in that situation that early on in their career, they'd prefer not to have the spotlight, especially on defense and at corner. It's one thing to be at running back where it's mostly like either like okay or great, and at corner it's like mostly either like okay or terrible.
I was gonna say it's either you're the hero or you're the villain. That's how it was.
How what did you think of that, of playing the position where it's where mistakes like basically cost your team the game, and it's like you have to be mentally on in that way every single play?
It was definitely harder at the beginning, I'll say, just because it's honestly a mentality where then like coaches harp on it all the time. It's that next play mentality. In corner, it's you're literally living that because you can play 100 plays and then you give up 1 touchdown and you're the worst. Like you just got to be able to cast all that aside and just play the next play and do what you do.
Yeah, that sounds right. Have you so far in camp, have you given up some bombs or some big plays to some of the other receivers?
I did my very first day. That was the only one, but my very first day, what's his name? Tyrell Williams. I underestimated his speed and he took off. But that was the only time, and I'm actually glad it happened. Me and my coach talked about it. Like we're glad it happened on the first day because that won't happen again. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. So now you think it won't happen again because you just are a little bit more ready for the speed, or you're just taking things a bit more serious. I don't know about it's more seriously, but just like I don't know, you're just a little bit more focused out there, or what do you think what's changed and what did you learn from it?
I wouldn't say a little more serious, but like you said, a little more focused. Just because there's a lot of little things that I did wrong that play that could have been prevented, that could have helped me out in the long run. And those are things, and honestly, in college that you got away with. Just things such as like getting ready in your stance before the play. Your eyes, things like that. Where in college, you could get away with that, but in the NFL, it's a whole different monster. The receivers they'll prey on those little things.
Well, yeah, I think speed is such like a big thing, especially when you're playing corner. When you have a speed advantage, it gives you room to make some mistakes, gives you room to guard guys a little bit closer and react and make up some time with your legs. But when the speed starts to go the other way, then things get really tricky, and you got to be perfect in order to stay up with someone.
Definitely.
So why don't you tell me, what is like a typical practice in rookie minicamp like?
Typical practice. During rookie minicamp, because it's kind of like they model it after training camp. So that's actually the days we'll have in training camp. We wake up, get breakfast. We have meetings before for like an hour and 30 minutes. Then we go have a walkthrough for like an hour, come back in, eat, shower, have another meeting to go over the walkthrough. Then we go out for actual practice, and you go out there for 2 hours, and it's your typical 7-on-7, uh, about 3 team periods, special teams, circuits, things like that. Do that for 2 hours, come back in, have a third meeting for like an hour and 20 minutes, and then you're done. So it's a packed day. It's a full day.
And are you guys in full pads during practice, or what's the setup like there?
I mean, in rookie minicamp and OTAs, we were just in helmets, but in camp, we'll obviously be in full pads.
Yeah, so you're in helmet, so it's all touch off, no tackling, nothing like that.
Yeah, no contact. Just they don't even really want you. They say don't fight through the ball like as a defender, like if there's like, but obviously some people are going to end up on the ground sometimes, but because people are competitive, but they want as least contact as possible.
Yeah, I think that they're probably evaluating on the guys that can get it done without ending up on the ground in some ways.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's a sign of athleticism. Do you think that like I'm like thinking if they're evaluating guys and deciding whether or not they're going to take someone, it's hard to do some of that. I mean, especially for some of those positions like O-line and D-line, that's got to be very tough in helmets only. And then, even for everyone else, like what about the running back that isn't as agile but can, knock, it's just harder to tackle, or the defensive back that, is great with his feet, but when he has to make a tackle is not so great. Imagine like it kind of selects for certain traits and selects against other traits in the camp. Do you notice that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of hard, just because there's no contact or anything. And, football with pads on is different than football without pads. And they say that all the time. But by now, these coaches, they've found their tools, and they've found things to look at for ways to evaluate players without pads. So at that point, you just got to trust that they know how to evaluate players in that situation.
Yeah. No, I'm guessing they would prefer to do it with pads if that was something that was
Yeah,
reasonable, but it's they got to adjust and do the best they can with what they have.
right,
I'll always remember we had Chase Edmonds, who's playing for the Cardinals,
right.
and curious actually if you've talked with him at all, and to get some advice too. But he was a freshman, and this was 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, and this was during the time when teams were more and more transitioning away from not ever practicing and doing like full on tackling in camp. Now I'm guessing there's a lot of teams that are not doing it, but this was like during that transition, and we were basically not tackling at all during camp. And we did do one scrimmage where we were going to tackle and have like basically like live, if it's in the game, it's in the game deal. And Chase, that was when like he was a freshman, and that was when he went from being like, oh, this guy seems like he's pretty good to, oh, this guy's actually really good. And because our when he was up against our starting defense and no one could tackle him, we had something special in a freshman. And that's like how he became like a starter. And then that he won the Jerry Rice Award that year as the best freshman in college, in FCS football. So I got to think that that you do miss something by not having that full pad experience. But I think like you probably get the right guys to camp. I mean, they still have 90 guys at camp, and so they can probably get the right 90 there, and then sort them out from there. So Okay, so that's a typical day in the rookie mini camp, and then you said you did like OTAs after that. Is that what happened next?
Yes.
And so that's like the whole team comes in, or what happens there?
Um, I mean, technically they're voluntary, but I think we had every player show up, but OTA I mean OTAs are basically like what I just mentioned, but you cut out the walkthrough and you cut out some of the meetings just because it's technically voluntary. So the veterans they don't gotta come to everything, but I mean the practice is basically the same. It's a little less the intensity is a little less just because it's an OTA and they don't want to get people get hurt. But I mean we're still doing 11 on 11, 7 on 7 type drills, and we're still going hard.
Cool. And so now so you say you're starting camp at the end of July, and how many guys come to camp?
About 90, I think. I think it's 90.
And then 53 make the team or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
So that's like that means that half the guys got to go basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they find different places or homes, or or don't, right? And I'm sure it's just a cool experience to be there. What do you think is your edge? What do you think is going to separate you? That's going to help you to get there?
My edge, I feel like personally I'm a great man-to-man corner, and I know um, the DB coach. He's been talking. They said, yeah, we want to do a lot of man-to-man press this year. So hopefully, if I can just show in the preseason that I can get that done at the best of my ability, and it's good for them, then hopefully I can stick around.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened after I left Fordham, but when I was there, we were still doing a lot of press man. Did you get to do that again for like the next 3 years? And I guess if you did, you probably have a lot more experience with that than some of the other corners. Is that how it feels?
Oh yeah, I mean the because I had I think four different defenses in my 4 years there, but all every year it was basically you go to the boundary, you're press man on one, take him out. You may get safety help, you may not, but we're gonna do what we do over here, and you just go to the boundary and do what you do there. So that was I'm 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 used to man to man press. That's why I'm confident in my ability to do it because I've been doing it so much my whole college career.
I would say, from a defensive coordinator's perspective, if you have a guy that can lock up man-to-man boundary corner against the X receiver, you take that every time and you just wipe them off the map and then play 10 on 10 on the inside. It's usually for most teams they don't feel that comfortable with that matchup, and then they have to start about like, okay, how do we get that guy some help? And when you start saying, how do I get that guy some help? The help's got to come from somewhere, and that gives you a little bit less in every other place that you really want it. And so, having that corner can make a big difference. Are they looking at you to play boundary corner? Or I guess in the NFL it's probably just left and right? Because of the
Yeah,
hashes.
they just do left and right.
Yeah, so there's not really a big boundary field presence, I think, in the
No,
NFL.
no.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's pretty awesome. What I want to do is I want to take you back. I'm kind of curious to get your perspective on the recruiting process, and how you felt like it went for you, and you can just tell the story, from your perspective, and then I can chime in and tell it from my perspective because I was on the other side of it.
Um, Basically for me, my recruiting process got started very late just because I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't even get significant playing time until my senior year. So like my sophomore and junior year, I was kind of going to camps here and there, but I was playing mainly receiver, and I wasn't playing up to my potential just because I was kind of out of position. Um, so then I switched to corner going into my senior year, and that's when I started going on the camp circuit because my dad was just like, we got to go as many camps, get your name out there as much as possible. So we went to that Chicago Northwestern camp. That was probably my biggest camp just because I probably got three or four offers just from that one camp, and did that, got a few there. Um, the season came around, and I finally got to put some film out there. But I wasn't really attracting FBS offers just because I in high school I actually played safety. Like I never played corner in high school except for those camps. So I never really got any of those FBS offers. Looking back on that, I'm kind of happy just because I ended up at Fordham. Somewhere I wanted to be. Great academics and all that. But yeah, basically did that. And other than that, it went pretty smooth. Committed in January after taking a visit, and it was pretty good.
So what were the other schools that were in the running at the end of the game?
At the very end, I was considering Yale, Columbia, Youngstown State, and Wofford. Those were like my main. I had the academies, but I wasn't really interested in going to the Army or Navy or anything. But those were the main ones.
And what made you choose Fordham over the other places?
Fordham, it sounds kind of cliche, but they really offered the best combination of um, football and academics. Because they were y'all had a strong team. Y'all were going to the playoffs here, and beat Temple. It's a strong program. So I was like, I want to be a part of that. And then on the other side, you have a very strong academic school. Internships for I never banked on going to the NFL. So I was like, if that's not the case, I want to go to a school that has a strong internship or job network. So that also worked in my favor. So those were the reasons I went there.
And now looking back on it, so much changed, I think, probably from when you were recruited to when you left. I mean, the academics didn't change, right? Fordham's still a good school. But the coaching staff completely changed. And the team ended up not being as good probably for at least your last 3 years than they were for the 3 years leading into you going there. So I don't know how, given that that was like one of the reasons why you chose to go to Fordham in the first place, looking back on it, what do you think?
I definitely wish we could have been more successful the last few years. I don't regret it just because, I got to play football for 4 years. I played all 4 years. So I got to do that. I got my degree in 3.5, very strong degree. I met some of my brothers that will be brothers for life there. So I definitely don't regret that. But I definitely don't regret it. I do wish we could have been more successful because I feel like we had some very talented teams, especially my junior year. I feel like we could have made a run in the playoffs, but sometimes it's just not in the cards.
Yeah, and you had to deal with a coaching change too, or I guess a couple of coaching changes during your time there. Is that something that you always knew could happen going in, or did that take you by surprise?
No, I mean, I basically knew when I committed. When I committed that at least Coach Moorhead was going to go. I predict like I predicted he would be gone after like my sophomore year, but when he made the jump to Penn State after freshman year, I wasn't like shocked or anything because he's a great coach. And even when he was, I remember meeting with him. I don't know if it was at my house or if it was on my official visit, but my dad like asked him, he's like, "So how long do you think you're gonna be here? Like, are you here for the long run?" And he was basically kept it real, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna do whatever is best for my family. So if next year, if the right offer comes, then I'm gonna take it. If it doesn't come for another 20 years, then I'll take it in 20."
Yeah. Do you think that that honesty, I mean, he could have said a lot of different things there. He could have said, no, I'm here for life, and then just still left in a year. What did that genuineness or that honesty, did that come across there in a way that impacted your recruiting decision at all? Or was it just like, I don't know, what was your reaction to hearing that?
No, it definitely left a good impression on me just because in the recruiting process, I've noticed a lot of coaches just say stuff that you want to hear. So when you meet someone that's genuine and just doesn't lie and keeps it 100, like that's really all you can ask for. And, it's not always going to be something you want to hear, but as long as it's the truth and nobody's putting up any false curtains or anything, that's all you can ask for.
Can you give me an example of someone that said something in the recruiting process that you thought like was kind of full of shit?
Well,
You don't
um,
have to tell me who said it if you don't want to, but I'm just curious, like, because I think that information is helpful for the athlete that was listening to this.
I know there was an FBS program who they were kind of recruiting me a lot because I went to their camp in June. I killed it there. And they were talking to me throughout the whole summer leading up. And I knew they weren't going to offer me just because I didn't have any junior year film. But they were basically saying, like, yeah, like, we're keeping a spot for you. We love what you did at the camp. They brought me up on an unofficial visit, like, not one of the junior days. Like, they personally brought just me and toured the campus and all that. So I was like, wow, like, I'm actually like I might get offered for them. And they basically were in touch all the way until I think the third week of like the season. they were like, yeah, like send us your tape or whatever. And I was having a pretty good season. We that was my the year we went to the state championship, so I was having a pretty good season. I sent the tape. They said we loved it. I'm gonna go back, talk to the coach. We're gonna see if we can get you an offer right now. So I'm over here thinking, wow, I just got I'm about to get my first FBS offer. The ball's gonna start rolling, and then I never heard from them again, and
They
it was
just
basically crickets.
just nothing.
And it was
They just
nothing.
never called you again.
They didn't, and it was kind of awkward because then 3 weeks later, they actually visited my school to recruit one of our linemen, and they didn't even say anything. They didn't say what's up. They didn't even talk to me. So I was like, wow, that's when I learned the recruiting process is it's really a business sometimes.
Yeah, was this just so I have a sense, was it like a MAC school or was it more like a Big Ten school?
It was a MAC school. It was
Yeah,
a MAC school.
gotcha. So it was like one step up from the places that were recruiting you.
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, I'm glad they didn't offer me because I wouldn't Fordham was way as a school and the network and things like that. It's head over heels better than where I was gonna go. But I just kind of I don't know. I guess I wanted the validation to know that I could play at that level, and I never got that at that time.
Do you think if you put yourself in the shoes of like the 17-year-old or 18-year-old Dylan Mabin, you would have made a mistake? You're saying like it would have been a mistake to go to that. Do you think that if you had been given the opportunity, you would have made that mistake, or do you think that you would have seen through it and made the right call?
I probably would have made that mistake just because, and it's not going to be a mistake for everybody. I'll say that, could be good for other people compared to me. But for my personal experience, I probably would have made that mistake just because I wanted to play, Division I football, with the other MAC schools. But looking back, I'm glad I went to Fordham.
Yeah, I think most athletes overvalue playing at the highest possible level. And it's not that it's not important. It actually is pretty important. And athletes should want to play at the highest possible level. But I think that for many athletes, it is like the biggest factor. They would go to the school that is the worst fit for them if it's at one level higher than the school that is the best fit for them. And they overweigh it that much. When it should be a factor, but it should be just a factor just like anything else. And I think athletes are probably underestimating that. Well, if they play at the higher level, they'll play less. They'll play less, and they might not be a starter until their junior or senior year, or at all, or et cetera.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed. Regardless of the level you go to, if you're good enough, you're gonna get exposure, and you're gonna be able to take your game to the next level. There's Division III people that probably shouldn't be playing Division III. They probably could be D1, but they're at Division III, and then they still get noticed and still get invited here and there, and then the next thing you know, they're in the NFL. It really, that's one thing I wish I could go back and kind of change my attitude on, was the FCS and Division whatever versus Division I. I wish I could go back and change my view on that.
Yeah, and so if you had advice, just general advice for someone, I mean, a lot of people are in your shoes. You were going into the summer before your senior year in high school. You really didn't play that much your junior year, but you knew you wanted to play college football. A lot of guys are in that position. What do you recommend for them? What do you suggest?
Definitely don't think that you're too good for anything. I see tweets and stories about. I've actually even have a friend that's coaching for a D3 college, and he went out to offer somebody, and the kid was like, nah, I don't think I think I'm better than your program, basically. I think I should be somewhere else, higher up. And I think that as going into that level, I think you shouldn't necessarily look at the level of competition or the level or Division II, Division III. You should just worry about just getting there and take everything for what it is, and basically just do what you can do to play.
Yeah, and then you had a lot of success going to the camps, college camps. What do you think it is? I mean, I'll give my perspective afterwards because I was on the other side of it. But what do you think it was that made the difference for you? Why were the camps such a successful jump starter for you?
For me personally, the first one was definitely the my speed. Because I guess I don't know if it's the way I look or the way I carry myself, but most people don't think that I'm fast. So then when I get to these camps and I run a pretty good time, they're like, "Whoa, we didn't think you were that fast. And now now I got the eye on me. So then you got to back it up once you get to the drills, and the one-on-ones are obviously crucial. So once you get the eye on you, then you just got to perform during that and show what you can do.
Yeah, and then I'll replay that from my perspective, because being on the other side, I was so I'd gone to the Northwestern camp, and you were a name on my list because Tim Zetz, who was recruiting Ohio, had passed along your name, and I think I had seen your junior film, or at least what you had of it, because it's not that you didn't have any film, you just didn't have you didn't have good film, and I mean, like, from your junior film, it was basically like I wouldn't even like have spent time to continue to recruit you.
Yeah, I wouldn't have offered me off.
Yeah. Yeah, like, like you're just like anyone else. You were a okay high school football player, right? Off of the junior film. But to be honest, like, it is intriguing. You have a brother that played Division I football, was Mr. Ohio, and do I have that right? He was like Mr. Ohio in football?
He was the runner-up.
Oh, runner-up. Okay, so close enough. And played Division I football at a Big Ten school, and then your dad had played college football, and so I think that like that was enough to like intrigue me to be like, okay, well, I will still have the names circled on my list along with like 30 other names that are circled on my list from my recruiting area and the other recruiting areas, and so I was there, and then you ran well. So then, like, immediately of the 30 names that are circled on my list, I'm like checking the times, and any corner that was running, say, slower than a 4.7, I was just basically crossing off, right? And your time being especially good, like, had you like as like a plus sign next to your name. So I have like this big sheet of paper in front of me, and now I'm like crossing some names off, and maybe I'm down to like 10 people that I'm still really looking at that like I'm trying to evaluate at the camp. And so we get to the drills, and I'm focused and watching you do the drills, and I think you're right. You did really well in the drills, and it made me think like, okay, I actually am like seriously wanting to consider making an offer, to you based on what I'm seeing, with the speed combined with the drills. And the one-on-ones, honestly, like, to me, didn't factor in as much as they do in your mind. I would imagine that if you were getting your butt kicked in one-on-ones, then it would probably like have turned me off. But the thing is like, I find that as being something that's like equivalent to the film, whereas like that's like gauging like your ability level at that moment. Where like when I'm watching you in the drills, and I'm watching, and I'm seeing like your speed and like your raw athleticism numbers, I'm thinking, okay, he might not be good enough yet, but I'm seeing potential that like with my coaching I can make him good. Okay. So that's how I'm picturing it in my mind. So like even if like you're not doing great in the one-on-ones, I'm probably still thinking, okay, well, I still am seeing the potential here, because you got to imagine every day I'm watching the two best corners in our conference in practice, because we had the two best corners, watching them do these drills. And then I'm watching you do these drills, and I'm like, if you could do it just like they can do it, you probably can do the other things that they can do too. So I remember doing that, and then I'm pretty sure either before the one-on-ones or after the one-on-ones, I pulled you to the side, and I had you do like just some drills just for me to get like a one last read, because it's really going out on a limb for me to want to say like, I want to offer this athlete, and he doesn't have any film, he doesn't have any film that's worth offering. And so, because it's not entirely my decision, it's the decision of me, the defensive coordinator, and the head coach. So, I'm trying to learn as much as I can to go out on a limb and say, like, because if I'm going to go out on a limb and say like, no, I don't know, even though that you, the defensive coordinator, you, the head coach, the only thing that you can see on this athlete is something that you wouldn't offer, I'm going to say that I'm going to stamp my name on this and say, offer him anyway, and it'll work out. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build the case for that. And you did great. You did great in those drills, and it made me feel comfortable. And so I went back to the office and made sure. I think I probably left you with the impression that good things were going to happen, but I needed to clear up some things, because it wasn't entirely my call, and cleared it up. And I'm pretty sure we tried to offer you as soon as possible after that. So anyway, that was it from my perspective. And that's pretty rare. I would say like I've only done that a handful of times. At camps. I mean, at our own camp, it happens a little bit more often, where someone will come out of nowhere, surprise you, and then, but at other camps, it's typically guys that are like really close to getting an offer already, and then they perform well enough, and then you offer them. So that's more typical. So yours was kind of the exception, but obviously we weren't the only ones that liked you. Who were the other guys that offered you based on that camp?
Based on that camp, I remember there was a whole bunch of like D2 programs that were, I don't think they could technically offer, but they were basically like, yeah, like we want to give you a spot, et cetera, et cetera. But I know Yale, they offered me based off that, and Lafayette, they also offered me based off that. And there's another one, I can't really remember which one it was, but I know those were y'all were the main three that I remember from that camp.
Gotcha. And then, so 4 years later, or 5 years, whatever it is later, when you're graduating and you finish your career, and now you're getting picked up by the Raiders. That was one of the things I want to ask you is, the year before, our running back Chase Edmonds, he had gotten drafted to the Cardinals. Did you call him up? I mean, that's got to be like one of your closest friends that was recently going through like a similar thing. Did you talk to him at all, or who'd you talk to get advice about the process?
I mean, like you said earlier, like I have a brother and I have two cousins that have gone through like the same process. So I definitely talked to them. I talked to Chase a lot because he did just go through. I mean, I was talking to him since the beginning of my junior year about this whole process because he's like a firsthand knowledge of how to do it from my school. But I definitely talked to him. I still talk to him now. We play him in the preseason, so I'll probably hopefully see him there. But he was definitely a instrumental piece in helping me understand just the nuances of, practice, how to adjust from coming from Fordham to the NFL. He was instrumental in helping me get that.
Well, that's great. And so you're starting back up at camp soon. What I want to do is I want to just kind of check in on you, every now and again and get you back on, even if it's just for another 5 or 10 minutes and get a quick update from you. Because I think it'd be cool to track and see how it's going. Because I imagine every week you're probably gonna have your ups and downs going through the process. So definitely want to do that. But before I go, is there anything that you would give as just general advice to athletes at all, that are going through the recruiting process from your experience?
Basically just talking to, the high schooler that didn't get as much playing time as he thought he would his first couple years. Just don't panic. There's always options for ways you get out, and if you just work hard and don't think that you're better than certain programs, take anything that you can get and just keep working hard, and it'll all work out as long as you just you believe in yourself and give it all you got.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. Good luck. We'll be watching and rooting for you.
Appreciate it.
That was fun. Dylan had some really good advice there to close it out. I think my advice always is to athletes is don't discount any school until you have at least 2 offers. Once you have 2 offers, then you can say, okay, are these schools that I'd be less interested in the ones I already have offers from? And if so, then it's okay to start to focus your efforts. But until then, you should be taking on all comers. And, if you're really interested in playing college football, you should be listening to all the schools that want to talk to you. And I wanted to also give everyone a quick reminder that if you're enjoying the podcast, to support it. The best way to support the podcast is to share it, on your own social media, or to send it to a friend that you think might be interested or someone you know. Every episode we do, our audience keeps on growing, and it's thanks to you guys. So keep it up, and we'll continue to deliver excellent content to learn about the recruiting process and so much more. So thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.